Hello, everyone. It's Dawn here with my special guest tonight, Robin Adams. How you doing, Robin?
Doing very well. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm really excited that you decided to join me. If you're joining right now, this is the third of my three-part series that just, for whatever, for multiple reasons. I shouldn't say for whatever reason because I know exactly why. Um, these cases are so important to me, but they're not the normal thing that I do. So I just feel like, and so this is part three of talking about what's happening with our kids online and crimes against them, some of which are very serious, and kids are losing their lives. So not only their physical lives, but their emotional lives if they get through the whole thing. So in any case, um, Robin, have you heard of the DeMay case, the Jordan DeMay up in Michigan?
Vaguely, I've heard of
Okay, yeah.
it. I've
So
not been following it closely.
right. So that's one of hundreds of cases, hundred thousands actually of cases. And the first episode I did of this three-part series, I read this indictment that pertained to his particular the crime against him, along with others. It wasn't just his, and um, that has resulted in three Nigerian men, young men, getting extradited to the United States to face charges, and two of them did plead guilty already. So there won't be a trial. And then the third one, they were still working about a week or two ago on extradition. I haven't followed it enough to see if he's if he's here yet in the United States. And the good news about that, and I didn't mention this at the time, is that the Nigerian government, there's a lot of scams going on out of Nigeria, whether it's against children or elderly women looking for love, all kinds of stuff like that. But what was really good to hear about this is that the Nigerian government is cooperating with the United States and the FBI, whereas some governments aren't, and so they want to get on top of it as well. And that was kind of reassuring to know that. So, in any case, my first episode, I read the indictment. Jordan. I talked about what Jordan and his family had to say in the message that they're trying to get out on the second episode. And then so tonight, I invited you on because you brought up a really cool documentary series, right? Is it a docu-series or was it a one-time? It was like a docu-series, right?
It is a docu-series, yes.
Tell us about this docu-series. What's it called? And because I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I did a little bit of the interview part, so I don't want to spoil it for you.
Yes. The docu-series is called Undercover Underaged. And it is there are two seasons of it on Discovery Plus. There will be a third season next year.
Okay.
And it is about a woman named Rue Howell
Hmm.
who runs a nonprofit organization in the state of Oklahoma called SOSA. I don't remember what that acronym stands for, but
Right.
it's an acronym. And she and her team pose as underage girls online on Snapchat, on Instagram, on social media, and they wait for older men, legal adult men, to message them.
Right.
And it is very disturbing
Yeah.
things that they have to that they see that get sent to them. They
Hmm.
have several young women that are legal adults but look younger,
Right. Right.
who pose as these underage girls
Hmm.
for FaceTimes and things like that. They have a professional photographer, and I wish I remembered his name because he is one of the best photographers in the business. He works with models. He could do anything with his work, but he chooses to spend his free time working with this nonprofit, and he photoshops these adult women to look like teenagers for the fake social
Right.
profiles,
Right.
things like that, and helps them decorate. They run it out of a house
Mhm.
that they own, and he helps decorate the room like a teenage girl would have their room. They have several of these girls, and it's just phenomenal because they give up their time with their families. Because
Right.
fortunately, these men, it's not only unfortunate that these men are doing it in the first place, unfortunately a lot of these men are married and have children of their own, and so a lot of these conversations that they are having are happening at night.
Mhm.
When they are able to identify a person who is trying to solicit a minor for illegal activity, they then give the case over to the local police department, who also they're so good at it that when the police department has a lead on a guy and they can't get enough evidence, they give the case to Sosa
Okay.
home
Okay.
to get the evidence.
So yes, and I know I'll get the name of that photographer and I'll put it down in the comments. I don't have it right off, but he is really impressive.
Yeah.
So good. One of the interesting things that you mentioned when I watched the interview of Rue was that she said one of the last questions that the interviewer asked her, and I'll put that interview down in the description too after the show. I'm sorry, I forgot what the name of the show was where I saw the interview, but it was great. One of the last questions she asked her is, how does she handle this? Because of course Rue has young children as well. It's a very uncomfortable conversation to have, right? And it's scary and if you have children, but Ruth, it's interesting that she does this out of a separate home. She never brings her work home, and she compartmentalizes very much. And so she doesn't really bring her work home as a lot of people would be able to. And yeah, and they turn it over to the FBI. And the other, hey, Katie's here. Hi, Katie. The other cool thing is that she offers so much insight into these perpetrators that I don't think you would get otherwise. The awful thing about what you said is, yes, a lot of them are obviously adult men, and married, but this this organization isn't going out there pretending to be kids and approaching men. They're just
Correct.
sitting there. They're
Correct.
just sitting there with a profile, just like I'm sitting with a profile. You have a social media, whatever account, Twitter, whatever. They're just sitting there and they're inevitably getting inundated with these approaches, these illegal approaches. So that's horrifying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she said there's just so many of them. We need to multiply her by a million times to get on top of this. So it blows me away. I mean, it blows me away. I just learned really only a week ago, because I had a crime committed against me when I was a child. And the guy's still the guy's life in prison, and I I got away, but somebody else didn't. Okay, and I met with her family members last week, and they mentioned that this guy also had children, and I was just like, that out of all the stuff we talked about, that really bothered me. So he was married with children, and then he went after these little girls, and it just blows me away. Even, who else is in the news right now? I don't even want to mention it. because he wants publicity. So anyway, there's a famous person in the news right now who I'm not going to mention because he wants publicity, who's been in prison for years. But he had a family and a daughter, and the daughter's actually helping the FBI right now. And he never harmed them. It's so bizarre. I mean, that whole thing. Anyway,
Unfortunately, that's not always true. A lot of the times these predators are hurting their own children, or in some cases their stepchildren.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Seeking more victims elsewhere. And it's really scary because, as you know, I am a former middle school teacher. I taught middle school for over 11 years, and those kids have seen a lot, and they do see a lot on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the, I feel, most unfortunate things about the pandemic in 2020 was all the time that kids spent on social media. And they almost had to in order to keep connected with their friends. But unfortunately, that meant that other people were also on social media that were not there for the same reason.
Katie brings up a really good point. Katie's here in the comments. Hi, Katie. And she said, I just saw the best quote. And Katie's a mom too. Safe adults don't ask kids to keep secrets. Right. And one of that kind of ties in the opposite is a parenting tip that Brian DeMay, the father of Jordan DeMay, who's no longer with us, he said the one thing he said he did everything. He thought he was doing everything. They had a great relationship. They had the parental controls on. He was just about to turn 18 in like 6 weeks, graduate from high school. So he was kind of letting some things go. This kid got a text while he was driving up into the driveway. And so he's like, Dad, I'm on the, so this perpetrator approached him just like he's right in front of his dad, right? It's as if he was there. But he said, the one thing I didn't say is don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. Look out for this, look out for that. But if it happens, come to me. Because Jordan was so embarrassed by what had transpired in that 3-hour period that rather than go to his father, he took his life. It was just, and he was like this all-American kid. He wasn't in trouble. It was just like, it happened so fast. And this is happening. And they're encouraging this. If they don't have enough money to send them, if they're extorting them. I mean, there are other reasons. I've been just talking about the sextortion thing, but there are other crimes as well against children, which we can get into. But yeah, so the other side of that excellent quote that Katie brought up, safe adults don't ask kids to keep secrets, but they also don't keep secrets and allow their kid that kind of emotional space and safety net that if the kid does get into trouble, they feel like they can go to their parents and talk to them about it rather than get further down the hole, whatever that might be. So thank you for that. Katie says, I never asked my kids, don't tell dad. Yeah, that didn't go on. Yeah. So you saw a lot as a school teacher, no doubt. And it seems like no matter what, as technology develops and social media is such a common part of almost everyone's life anymore, and definitely children's, they're being raised up with it being there. It seems harmless. How do you feel? What do you think is the best protection? Not using social media at all? Or how do you get around okay, well, okay, no social media, but my kid needs a computer or a tablet for school where they can get social media and sneak it by, right? So what do you, as a dad, and Katie, since you're in the comments as a mom, what do you think is the best way to handle that?
The best way to handle it is to be a good parent. And what I mean by that is this: kids should not fear their parents.
Mm-hmm.
They should not fear their parents' anger.
Mm-hmm.
If they do something wrong, there are consequences, of course. But the consequences should never make a child afraid to bring something bad, whether it's something they did or
Mm-hmm.
something that was done to them, to their parents.
Right.
My wife and I always talk that when Ricky is older, he's 5 right now. If he gets into trouble, we don't want him to say, "Oh, gotta call my dad." I want him to be like, "I'm gonna call my dad, and he's
Right.
gonna fix it."
Right. Right.
And
He's going to help me. Yeah.
yeah, and I just feel like so many parents are very big on grounding. They're big on
Mm.
spanking in some cases and other things that may get their point across, but don't really make them not want to do it again. It makes them not want to get caught again. You know, you're not teaching them that necessarily that what they did was necessarily bad or negative. You're teaching them that they did a bad job of hiding it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so you, as parents, we need to establish that kind of a relationship with our children where it is comfortable for them to bring uncomfortable things to the parents.
Right.
As far as like social media goes, I personally don't think that kids younger than 13 should be on it. Even the terms and conditions on the social media platforms themselves say
Right.
you cannot be on here unless you're under 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it is good for families to talk about limited use of social media.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to talk about what is okay to share on social media,
Right.
isn't.
Right.
It's good to also give kids their privacy as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in today's modern era, like you said, they'll get a Chromebook for school. Like, and they'll be on it at school if they're not on it at home.
Right. Right.
And so it's teaching responsible use of social media.
Right. Just
And
like you could teach boundaries, right? Like if someone,
well,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, when you and I were kids, it was stranger danger, right?
Right.
You talk
Right.
to strangers, and
Mm-hmm.
that same thing applies for children, in my opinion, on the
Right.
internet.
Right.
Now, when you're adult, things are a little different because Dawn, you were a stranger on the internet
Yeah.
not too long ago. And isn't it funny how that's the way we're raised? Don't talk to strangers on the internet. And here,
Right.
like so many of the people I talk to during the day are strangers from the
Right.
internet.
Totally.
But
Right.
that's also because we grew up learning stranger danger and
Mm-hmm.
also learned to be able to tell the difference between a functioning human being and a psychopath.
Right. We did. And you know, that's an interesting point. There's a couple things here. Um, with what happened in my life when I was a kid, there was no way that guy was I got away. Okay? He kept stalking me and all that, but I kept getting away. and the whole neighborhood and the family and everybody was around and protecting me, right? But that's because I knew I could, like, I knew that boundary was there, and I was surprisingly, I was a little prissy girl, but I was surprisingly, wise when I needed to be. And that's another sad thing I learned in talking in that meeting last week, was that the other little girl was younger than me and smaller. And in her case, the police wanted to toe this line that, he offered her bubble gum and that's why she went to him. But I don't believe that's true. I think so my point being, even with all of that, with all of the knowledge, and you can run away, some people are going to have somebody on the internet break through to them. It's still going to happen. And that was the overriding impression I got from Mr. DeMay, that we want to be prepared for that. Like this kid that we're talking about, the one in the indictment, one of the three, I believe, in that indictment that covered the crimes against, he probably was like me. He ran away, got away, but they still snagged him. I mean, they know how to, because now you're working not with just physically grabbing somebody off the street, you're working with their minds. And children's minds aren't developed enough. Even an 18-year-old quite isn't ready there. I mean, they're going to have to get ready because they're going to go off to college or whatever and become an adult real quick. But that is the part that I think I'm so, like, I want to get across by doing this series. It's that you prepared for everything else. You're probably doing everything right, but somebody's still going to be able to get through, probably. And most of the time the kids will be okay and they'll get out of it, but sometimes they won't. And what are you going to do in that case so that you're not looking back saying, oh, if I would have just done that one thing, which is what Jordan DeMay's father is doing, if that makes sense. Yeah. And Katie has some comments here too. She says, you can try your hardest to take away social media and internet, but it's not going to happen. So transparency is the key. And I think that's what you were saying too, Robin. And I know last week, one of the suggestions I thought was important of the two that I shared, that I learned, is having them use their computers, their devices, their phones, their social media, like in the living room, not in their bedrooms. Like the phones stay charging in the kitchen or wherever I think even that very family had the internet cut off in their room, so they couldn't even use it. But you have cellular data with phone anyway, so there's always ways to get around it. And then Katie also says, know all the passwords, look at the phone and all the apps, and have open conversations about everything. I think the open conversations regularly, not once, constantly, has to happen. And with technology changing and more apps and all that, it has to happen progressively, don't you think? I mean, it can't just be one and done.
No, and it is a very fine line. It is hard because teenagers especially are going through a lot anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to be alone. Like, they want their privacy.
Yeah.
And so that is hard. But it is your job as a parent to protect them.
Right.
My advice is, don't let them go somewhere with someone you don't know.
Right.
Like, if they're like, oh, I met this person online and they want to hang out, cool. Bring them over first and let's meet them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's meet their parents. Like, you cannot be too careful.
Right.
But you also need to be respectful of your child. Right. And that is where the fine line is, where you where you want to be protective of them, but you also want to be respectful of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Meeting friends' parents was pretty common when I was a kid. Like, we didn't just go any old place. Everybody knew the parents, either because they lived in the neighborhood or they went to the same school. Yeah, they were very, yeah. One of the other questions that the interviewer asked Rue was if she felt like there was one app or some apps that were worse than others. And she said they all present pretty much, as long as it has a chat function within the app. But having said that, I thought it was interesting. She brought up, and I had it on my mind too, the app Omegle. Or have you heard of Omegle?
I can't say that I have.
Okay, let me tell you about Omegle because I brought it up once on the Hey We Like Your Pod podcast for a different reason. Not, but when Matt Pickett heard about this app, he was like, "I'm terrified as a mother, as a father of two little girls." So this app, and I'm terrified. I mean, I thought it was kind of terrifying too. When I saw that this existed, and it was developed during COVID because of the isolation. So it's an app where where kids and adults go on, they log in, and you get paired up in a room with a video chat, which with somebody. So it's always a surprise who you're going to get. And obviously it's fraught with problems that were the type of problems that we're discussing today.
That is the stupidest idea I've ever heard in my life.
It's pretty stupid. The only reason I heard about it was, I mean, I heard about it, but I never pursued it. I have enough social media in my life because a lot of like famous artists will jump on there, and you'll get like,
Oh, surprise! You're talking to
Taylor Swift or something, and they'll play, or they'll,
okay.
yeah. So it's kind of cool for that, but it's awfully scary. And I mean, I thought about it's like, I don't think I would even do that as an adult.
No, and that's been happening for 20 years already.
Right. Exactly.
I remember very distinctly when I was in high school, I worked as a custodian at a K through 8 school. Mm-hmm. And I remember going down to my boss's office in the boiler room, the deep trenches of the school. And he was infuriated. And he goes, "Come here and look at this." And this is like early 2000s,
okay.
Like 2004, 2005. Mm-hmm. So, big box computer. And he's got this cartoonish looking thing pulled up with a bunch of penguins on it. He goes, "You see what these penguins are doing here?" I'm like, "No." Goes, "This is a chat room." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
You see those igloos in there? Yeah. Well, apparently, the penguins can go into the igloos and have a private conversation.
Wow.
Okay. He goes, "My daughter's penguins were going into the igloos with other penguins that I don't know who they are." And his daughters were like 7, 8 years old. I don't remember. He shut off their accounts.
Right.
On that. But it's been going on for so long.
Right. And that was one of the examples of how they actually made it, like cartoonish, so it would appeal to little kids. Oh, that's disgusting. That is so disgusting. I've never seen that, but I've heard about it.
I don't think it's around any. I mean, it was 20 years ago.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. It doesn't have to be, because now the kids are using the adults apps.
Well, yes, and that also is an issue.
It is an issue, and then it's like, well, how can the developers cannot police that? But one good suggestion I heard, tell me what you think about this one, at least only allow a person to have one account. So if you have an IP address, you only get one Instagram, you only get one thing. So you're not able to create all, I mean, you could buy a bunch of computers, and I suppose that would happen because there's money in it, but yeah. I mean, that would maybe scratch the surface, but kids can have apps on their phone that are hidden that parents can't even find now. They're hidden
Oh
way.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And computers have the quick hide, the window button or
Mm-hmm.
of keys.
Mm. Oh,
The
I didn't
kid,
even know that. Oh my
oh
gosh.
yeah, things you learn as a teacher.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I don't
god.
remember what the key combo is, but you're
Wow.
walking around the classroom, you see a quick like din of the hand, and
Yeah.
that meant that they like quick hid their screen with whatever was up there.
Now,
And
Katie says Roblox. Is that what it was called? Roblox?
no, this was even before Roblox. I'm old,
I'm
but
older.
well, okay, but yeah, Roblox is one that is scary because elementary school children like that game or
Oh,
that
it's a game. Okay.
platform and things like that. I remember when it first came out, and college students thought it was the coolest thing. But as time goes on,
They outgrew it.
yeah, they outgrew it, and yeah, that is a tough one with kids and adults as well.
My mother, who's 87 years old, plays games and, like Scrabble and whatnot. And I'm like, who are you playing with? Oh, just whoever. And I'm like, what are you doing that for? I'll play Scrabble with you. Don't do that. Oh, well, but it's so commonplace now. And kids want to be adults. We know how kids are, especially when you're getting into your tweens and teens. They want to be all grown up. And that's what I see in the Omega. It's like, where are these kids' parents? Where are they? They're working, whatever. They're probably not aware that their kids are doing this. And the kids are just so casual about it. Like they're not like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this type of thing. They're like out there, little kids, young kids.
Yeah, one of the things that I ran into early in my teaching career, so when I was in my early 20s, and talking to parents was, when Twitter was not such a big thing when I graduated
Right.
college. It was around, but it wasn't a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook was around, but it wasn't such a big thing. And
Mm-hmm.
Snapchat and Instagram had not been around yet.
No.
This is
Right.
the in between days between MySpace and everything that went up. But
MySpace. Right.
as all these social media things started to take off, and kids started to use them and be interested, parents would complain to me like, "Oh, this is so dumb. I'm not gonna use this. This is ridiculous. Like, people should be meeting face to face, going
Right.
outside to play and everything." And I always said, "Well, you're right, but you should use them. You should get to know the app.
Right.
Like, that is the biggest thing that advice I can give to parents is get to know the app. Get to know how things get hidden. Get to
Yes.
know how to block people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Get to know how people can contact you,
Right.
because that is the best way you can protect your kids.
Right. Turn
Because
that off.
like
Yeah.
we said before, is they're going to have it.
Right. Right.
They're going to.
Even
So
I do that. It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
the
I
best thing
can't.
you can do is to know the app better than them.
Right, which is hard for a lot of parents because some of them are, I mean, it has, because of this problem and other problems in harassment and all kinds of, politics and all kinds of crazy stuff. These apps, the controls have gotten so complex. And I think a lot of people feel it's overwhelming. It's not that hard if you take the time to go through it. That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Even I, as an adult, responsible for nobody but myself, you can't message me unless you're either my friend or a friend of you have to be my friend. So somebody has a friend request me, if they want to message me, or it's going to go, I'm sure I've got a million messages to just never see. And that's how it should be. I'm not curious about them or anything. And then if I get a friend request, now this is for adults who are also victimized by scammers. You look at how many, who is this person? Who are they friends with? So maybe they might have a couple of common friends, but when did they start their account? Does this look like, does his name match his picture? They're taking people's profiles and making other profiles with them, right? There are apps where you can find out if somebody's using your picture, to create another account. And so it's just, you're right. But I feel like parents feel like overwhelmed by the whole thing. Like they can't keep up. So Katie, I'm wondering, do your kids play Roblox, or is it just that why are you struggling with Roblox? I'm just curious. And by the way, that photographer, his name is Matt Monath, Monath.
I knew it was Matt. I couldn't remember his last name.
Yes. Photographer, director, retoucher, hugger, shooting advertiser, and editorial. Watch me on Underage on Discovery Plus. Email for inquiries. He's in New York City. Yeah, I'll put that link in the description later. Yeah, very good photographer.
Yes. Yeah. And like you said, he's in New York City, and he will go to Oklahoma.
Right.
On site to do their work for it.
That's amazing. That's great.
One thing for parents that get overwhelmed with the social media stuff is there are YouTube tutorials
for everything.
Where people will help navigate screens and everything like that.
Yeah, or ask a friend or ask a young person, to show you if you feel like it's too much for your little brain. I have a lot of friends who are like that. Oh, it's too complicated. It's not. I mean, it's like anything. You have to sit through the tedium and just do it. But your kids' safety is on the line. I think that's the issue. It's like, what's too complicated? If your kid was in trouble, wouldn't you get in the car and go? And maybe it would take you a couple hours to get to them. So just take that couple hours and prevent problems from happening by. Yeah. So as a parent, your answer isn't to ban social media for your kids.
No.
After age 13.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, I think that as a family, you can work to have social media free time.
Right.
And limit their access to social media to an extent.
Yeah.
But like I've said a couple times, they're gonna get it one way or another.
They're gonna get it.
The best thing that you can do as a parent is to create an environment of safety and comfort for them where they are not afraid of you.
Right. And that they know that whatever it is that has taken place, there's a way out with your help. And that it can be a learning experience, not it doesn't have to be. I mean, there might be a punishment involved too, but it's much worse would be the consequences if you're at the hands, either being continually extorted or harassed, or your pictures being used or whatever by criminals. I mean, wouldn't you rather deal with your parents than a criminal?
Well, absolutely, yes.
One of the things future-wise, before we go tonight, I want to talk about is how, and I started with this because things are progressing, technology is progressing, and now we have artificial intelligence progressing. And you wouldn't even have to give your own pictures for somebody to take your face or your selfies or whatever that you're plastering all over social media and put somebody else's body on it and send that to you and say, look what I have of you, right?
Well, that, and it wouldn't take much for people to take a recording of whatever video you post online, and the AI will copy your voice and make it say whatever they want it to say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really scary. And so I think more and more that for adults and children, we need to be dealing with people face to face, because anything that we see could be fake in the future. I mean, it's just really creepy. It's really creepy to think about how it's going to be even just in 5 years from now. I don't even know if I want to know. I had to be dragged onto social media. And the only reason I went on Facebook, after being literally dragged by my best friend who moved out of town and my family who are all out of town, is just, I had myself so locked down that I just saw their stuff. Private. I didn't put any pictures of myself or anything. And then once you do things, your barriers come down over time. And it's like, I probably don't practice anything I preach half the time. I mean, obviously I do. I'm not going to talk to strangers. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. I got on Twitter as an assignment for an educational technology class I was taking.
Oh, and then you never left.
Yes. That was 2010.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for the adults in children's lives to understand the social media.
Right. For sure. And pretty much everything has a chat option now. I mean, whether it's a game, I mean, you can't just play Scrabble. You have to be able to, there's a chat option, which is really, I mean, I guess that's why they call it social media, and a lot of people need that, but it's pretty awful to see what's being done with it. But I guess people are going to people, right?
Yeah. You brought up a good point before about being able to keep accounts private as opposed to public profile.
Right.
And I think that all children should have private profiles.
Right.
And a good way that you can keep them accountable is by being on that social media yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and following them or being friends with them on that.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they change that setting, you will see.
Right. That's for sure. It's worrying. That's for sure. Well, Robin, any final tips as a parent and a former teacher of middle school kids before we log off? And you want to provide any more insights? Do you have like a favorite episode from underage? How does it go?
Underage undercover.
Underage undercover. I can't wait. It is on Discovery Plus, so I will watch it when I'm mentally in the right frame of mind.
There were maybe 2 or 3 episodes that stick out to me as favorites of mine.
Okay.
One was the finale of season 2. I felt was the most powerful.
Okay.
I was actually so scared when it ended because it was kind of like a perfect episode to end the whole series on.
Okay.
Because it's that dramatic.
Wow.
But
Do you want to tell us, or are you afraid of spoiling alert?
Well, I don't want to. I'll just say that in season 2, they helped police arrest 16 pedophiles. And there are only 10 episodes.
I didn't hear the last part of what you said.
There are only 16 pedophiles, and there are only 10 episodes per season.
Okay.
So there were a few episodes in there where it was extra dramatic.
Wow. Okay. Well, at least I like that there's a show like this, because, and I do remember also in that interview, Rue said that she really wants to raise awareness with SOSA in her organization, and that's how I feel. I just felt compelled to talk about this because I think a lot of times I hear about things and things are really bad for children and and I don't, because I don't have them, I don't really ask why. But then it was just so moving when I saw this Jordan DeMay's father, Brian DeMay, get interviewed. I was just flabbergasted. I was just so moved and angry, that kids are already vulnerable. They're already, I mean, they still face the threat of being picked up on the streets too. I mean, they're little kids. They're just, they need protection. And to have this on top of it, I honestly, I'm kind of glad I wasn't a kid right now.
Yeah, it is scary. As to the last part of your question, what are my final pieces of advice?
Yes.
I said it multiple times, but there's the boundary of respect and protection that is very important.
Right.
But also be careful of making it a forbidden fruit
Right.
for your children.
Right.
Because I remember numerous times as a teacher hearing that so and so was grounded, they had their phone taken away, and they're telling all their friends, all of the people that they're going to talk to, and all the things they're going to go right back to doing when they get that phone back.
Oh, right.
And that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
In terms of, like I said, it's like education is so important, and it needs to come from the parents.
Right.
Because as a teacher, I taught social media safety. They don't listen to me. Maybe they won't listen to their parents, but they probably have a better chance of listening to their parents than they do me.
Right. Right. Yeah, because they need their parents. Right. So taking away the device, taking away the apps isn't going to be the answer. It's educating that kids from a young age on and having a continuing dialogue, not once and done, about what could happen. Also, a continuing look at what they're doing. I mean, a continuing look at their devices. If they can't say, I don't remember where this one came from. It might have been Rue. If you can't say something that you would say to your grandmother or your mother, don't say it on social media. Don't say it in your chat, in your messages. And if somebody is messaging you something that your mother wouldn't approve of or like, then you're in the territory where that needs to end. That conversation needs to end. That communication, that social media relationship needs to end.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. But it has to be constant. It can't be one and done. It's just kind of like sex education too. Back in the day, it's like, oh, my mother, we never talk about that. So, but those are the kids that got in trouble, right? It has to be something that, as you said, isn't a forbidden fruit, because they're just going to want it more. And it's going to be like a rebellion thing too.
Right. And just because it wasn't this way when we were kids doesn't mean it's not the way it is now. And you can say all you want that it's not the way it should be. The reality is that it's the way it is.
It's here. Yeah. It's a thing. It's a thing. It's something we didn't have to deal with. But certainly if I had kids now, I wouldn't be saying that. I'd be trying to protect them against everything, which is why I'd be a bad mother. I'd be such a helicopter mom. It would be ridiculous. It would never go out. Well, Robin, I really appreciate this conversation, and I'm glad I did this 3-part series, even if it is only a few people listening. I hope it helps somebody. And also, another thing I thought of. Sorry, I'm regressing a little bit. I believe there are clinics and people who will help parents I don't know if it's on the FBI website. I put some resources in the description where you can learn also as a parent how to change those settings and look at those settings and learn that too. So there's always somebody who can help you. You can't just say, oh, I can't do that, it's too much, and think that's enough. It's not enough. And hey, Too Deep, thank you so much for listening and watching. It's good to see you. We'll see you again tomorrow. And Robin, thanks again. Any final thoughts before we take off?
No, not. I've said my piece.
I appreciate it. And I just want to say thanks again for introducing me to that series, the underage. I still can't remember. Underage Undercover.
Yeah, whichever one it is.
Yeah.
The same no matter which way you put it. But
yeah.
just final, like, social media isn't going anywhere. It's only going to expand.
Yeah.
So as adults and parents that want to keep our kids and society safe, we should be educating ourselves on these apps so that we know what to look for.
That's right. Perfect. That's right. It's not hard. We can do it. We can put our big girls and big boy pants on and do it. It's our job. It's our job. All right, everyone. Well, thank you. Thanks again, Robin, for joining me, and we will see you all soon. Bye.